am not the same person I was in 2018. And it's all because of mindset shifts that radically changed my identity. In order to achieve and be something different than who we are, it all starts with our thoughts, thinking the same thing over and over again to create a belief. Shifting our identity, followed by repeated micro actions that prove that identity to be true. You see, your nervous system and subconscious are going to do everything they can to make sure you are true to your identity that's programmed into you, even if it's not your programming, even if it's not the best option for you, because it's what it knows and it wants to keep you safe in what you know. That programming starts at birth. So, who you are now may or may not be what you have personally chosen. It was another super hot day at the end of August 2018. I drove to my therapy session like I had 1 to 2 times a week since 2016. Got out of my car, walked into the lobby, and sat there waiting for my session to start. Before long, it was time to walk into my therapist's office. I had a question that had been weighing on my mind all week that I wanted to run by him. A big question that was really intriguing me, that I needed peace in my soul over. Come on back. I finally heard my name called. I quickly walked down to his office because I don't do anything slowly. I sat down on the couch and I didn't waste any time. I've got a question that I've been wanting to ask all week. Go for it, he said. Certain that I knew what he would say back because I knew the religious rigmarole, but I was somehow still curious. I asked him, how do people here and around the world who have different spiritualities and different religions have the same spiritual highs and experiences as I do if they don't worship the one true God? His answer back was something I was not prepared for. My brain and nervous system did a double take as I heard him say, well, what if it is the same God? Whoa, what? That answer was not okay. Let's back up a little. I had been born and raised a fundamental independent Baptist in a very sheltered cult like experience. I didn't know any better. I loved my life and I didn't want anybody else's. I had the best family and community. I didn't know what I didn't know. But one thing was but one thing I did know was that to them, therapy and counseling outside of the church was taboo for reasons like this. I had rationalized that I had rationalized this one because this man went to my church, and surely a man from my church wouldn't steer me wrong and I could trust him. Thank you, patriarchy. My nervous system freaked out. All kinds of emotions flooded my body as my world was rocked with a reply that I had not been expecting from this acquaintance who also attended the same church that I did. Wait, what? No, how could that be the same God? The correct reply that I had heard all of my life had been Satan comes as an angel of light. He wants to deceive you so he can take you from God and you won't spend eternity in heaven. The answer to my question was supposed to be, it's not God, it's the enemy, and I was lucky enough to know that. I was angry, terrified. I projected onto my therapist that it was his job to help me keep my faith. But he knew his job. Even though he was still Christian, his job was to let me question and to come to my own answers through my own questioning and research. Something I was not prepared for because my entire life I was taught that this is not okay. He gave me some progressive Christian authors to check out to try to make sense of things in my head. As I started looking into these authors, they were so different from me that I couldn't even recognize the fact that they were also Christian. They weren't to me because they didn't follow the fundamental independent Baptist way and rules that I was taught from birth is the one true way to experience God and Christianity. I couldn't relate to these books at all. They were hurting and not helping, in my opinion, and so I put them down. But the questions were still there. I felt like my soul was being tortured with the freedom of thought that I had been given, and I still needed to know what was going on, now more than ever. So I secretly went online looking for more information to fill this gap in my soul on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Facebook because I was not free to ask these God sized questions in the church or my community. I spiraled to look for answers. I'm ADHD, and when I find something I want to learn about, I hyper focus with an intensity within me to figure things out that cannot be quenched. I read and listened to people like Rob Bell, Peter Enns, Bradley Jersak, and other random opinions and insights that I would come across through various media. A couple months into all this, I learned the term identity foreclosure. In a psychology class I was working on in a psychology class I was in while working on my master's in counseling and development at a Christian school. Identity foreclosure in relation to religion is accepting a parent's religion without exploring alternative options. This happens to a lot of children who grow up in religious circles, as they don't allow you to look outside the church because it is the one right way of interpreting scripture for answers on your spiritual life and how you should live. When I learned about identity foreclosure and realized that's exactly what I had experienced, it was like another trap door fell out from underneath me. I had always thought my faith was my own. I had lived it seriously and wholeheartedly for 37 years, but I was missing an important key for decision making, and that was alternative perspectives. Realizing this was both exciting and devastating, and probably many other emotions too. There was no turning back. It was impossible to unknow or unlearn the things I had taken in through my hyper focused research. And the only option was to keep going down that rabbit hole until I could find some sort of peace in my soul. The problem with this rabbit hole was even while exploring progressive Christianity and other ways of viewing the Bible, it made me a heretic to my family, my church, and my community. So I had to keep it pretty secret, which felt really lonely and isolating, and 100% not like me, who was always an open book and loved to share what I was learning. Fast forward to January 2019. I had deep studied myself completely out of Christianity and my entire identity. I lost everything: my church, my community, my family, my friends, my life purpose, my entire identity, and a couple years later, my marriage too. I was not okay, yet I was more free than I had ever felt before. It was like being born again as an adult in midlife and having no idea how to operate in this world I lived in as an adult with no idea what was going on in my new reality. I thought God was testing me and he would be back in a few weeks or months and I would have passed the test. I waited and waited and waited, and my Christianity never returned. The crazy thing was, my ability to love people and not judge them for walking a different path than me was incredible and something I never understood before as a fundamentalist Christian. I felt so betrayed when my Christianity never came back. I was gone from these communities and spaces forever. I could not return. Like I said, you can't unknow what you now know. I didn't understand what happened or how. I was completely confused and regretted all the loss while also embracing that I saw things different now, but desperately wanting my community, family, and identity back. What I didn't realize at the time was taking in new information over and over and over again was creating new thoughts, which were creating new beliefs, which were creating a new personality, which was creating a new personal reality. And all of this was completely changing my identity. I am the kind of person who hyper focuses on things that make me curious in order to find answers that I can live with. What's different now than it was then is I can actually be okay with living with uncertainty, and I never have to reach a conclusion. I tell you this long version of the story to give you a glimpse of how change is possible. It's simple, yet it's a lot of repetitive work, yet it can be done. Shifting your reality starts with the thoughts that you think and the way that you talk to yourself over and over. It is then that you are able to easily make micro changes with tiny habits in your life to prove your new identity. In order to create lasting change, you first have to change your identity, and then the action will follow. Your identity is basically how you see yourself at your core. The story you tell yourself of who you are, what you're capable of, and the kind of person that you are in the world. It's not just what you do or what people call you, it's the underlying truth you believe about yourself. For example, someone might define themselves as I'm a creative person, or I'm someone who can handle really hard challenges. Another person might define themselves as I'm not good with money, or I'm shy. Your identity shapes your thoughts, your actions, and what you think is possible for your life. Change your identity, and the possibilities shift with it. You don't change your life by forcing every single thought to be positive. You change it by slowly adopting the thoughts that match the identity that you want to have. Think of it like trying a new pair of glasses. When you put on a different lens, say the lens of someone who's confident or creative, you start to see things differently. You see life differently. And when you see differently, you act differently. That is how your identity starts to shift. You want change. You swear this time will be different. You make the list, buy the journal, set the alarm. You start strong. And then You vanish. You ghost your own goals again. Cue the shame spiral. You tell yourself you're lazy, undisciplined, all over the place, a mess. You call yourself a quitter, a starter, not a finisher, and a waste of potential. But here's the truth: you're not lazy. You're on autopilot. You're running from a nervous system pattern that your body believes is safer from success. You're following a subconscious loop that says stay safe, stay small, and stay quiet. You don't follow through because you don't see yourself as somebody who does. Your brain is always working to prove your identity right. And if you subconsciously believe that you're a flake, a failure, or a fraud, your body will unconsciously act in ways to prove that identity right. That's not sabotage, that's programming. And it's probably not even yours. Most people quit where your subconscious story makes you think, that's not who you are. Go back to what we know. The law of sustainment says you cannot sustain any change that conflicts with the story you tell yourself about who you are. To change, you stop trying to force consistency from a place of willpower. You start creating evidence of a new identity, one tiny nervous system safe decision at a time. For example, if you want to drink more water, start shifting your identity by daily telling yourself, I'm the type of person who drinks more water. Now, don't dive into drinking all 8 glasses in a day and seeing yourself as a failure if you don't. Start with baby steps. For the next week, drink 8 ounces in the morning when you wake up with your coffee, before your shower. Anchor it to something that you're already doing. Tweak it if you have to. While you're drinking it, say to yourself, I'm the type of person who drinks water. And that is proving, your action is proving that you're the type of person that drinks water. This lets your brain fire and rewire together. Be flexible and kind to yourself with this. If you miss or forget a morning, do it later in the day when you remember, along with, I'm the type of person who drinks water. If you miss a day, complete it the next day. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for morning. Do it when you think about it. You're creating a new identity and a new habit and switching the subconscious belief that I can't drink water or that I have to wait for Monday to start over. The key is to catch these limiting thoughts and to flip them over and over until your subconscious believes the new rule, because a repeated thought becomes a belief, and then a repeated micro action proves the belief true. After you've done 8 ounces for a while, add more. Don't worry about being perfect, just keep going. This goes for any change in your life that you want to make. Catch the unwanted thoughts and that don't match the identity of who you want to be. Shift them and create more micro habits to prove that you can do the thing. Keep repeating. Eventually, it will be automatic, just like the previous programming was. Let's take a peek into how powerful your mind is. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. Imagine you're holding a bright yellow lemon. Feel the weight in your hand. See that tiny textured peel? Now let's run it under the water. What does the water feel like as it's running over the lemon in your hand? Is it warm? Is it cool? Is it refreshing? Now let's picture cutting it up. Get out the cutting board, get out the knife, slice through the lemon. Juice spilling out. The sharp citrus scent fills the air. Pick up the wedge and bring it to your mouth. Now take a big bite of it. The sour juice bursts across your tongue, your jaw tightens, and your mouth waters. Did you notice what just happened? There was no lemon here. Your mind created an image so real that your body reacted as if it were really happening. That's how powerful your brain is. Now imagine what else happens in your life when your brain constantly feeds you stories, images, and beliefs. Your body, your choices, and your emotions, they all follow along. That is why shifting your mindset isn't just fluffy self-help. It's rewiring and operating a system that runs your entire reality. Let's try something else with your body now. Let's see just how much your mind influences your limits. Stand up if you're able. Okay, you're going to stand up, which is hard for me to make enough space. You're going to plant your feet, kind of squatting up. You're going to plant your feet firmly on the ground. Now twist your finger around without moving your feet as far back as you can. Mark the place where you take a look at the place where your finger went to and remember that spot. Now you're going to close your eyes and imagine twisting again, except for you're going to imagine yourself twisting even farther. Imagine that in your head a couple times, twisting your finger around, going beyond, way farther beyond where you went before. Now I want you to stay where you're at, keep your feet planted in the same place, and twist again. you're going to end up in a completely different place. You're going to be able to go so much farther. And the reason you're able to do that is because you've thought it out and decided in your mind that you're going to do that before you did. That is how powerful your mind is. Your mind removed the invisible limits from your body. Your mind removed the invisible limits your body thought were there. This is exactly what mindset shifts do in our lives. What once felt hard, like a hard limit, suddenly opens up when your mind stops resisting. The body and life follows the new blueprint that you give it. So, with the lemon visualization, we can see the mind can create physical reactions out of nothing. With the twisting exercise, we see the mind can remove limits and expand what's possible. You can only go as far as your identity. Parts of your old identity cannot go with you where you're going. And it's all internal work. And it's the easiest thing and the hardest thing at the same time. Your identity does not want you to change, it wants to keep you safe. Your brain doesn't care what's true, it only cares what you repeat. Keep running worst case scenarios, and your brain will treat them like truth and look for confirmation bias that it's true. Everything you mindlessly took in while you were younger is guiding you when you're older until you shift it, and you may or may not even realize it. Mindset shifts are what happen when the way you see yourself in the world changes. And because your perception changes, what's possible for you instantly expands. Most people start with action, with doing something different. But mindset shifts start with seeing different. It's like realizing a locked door was never really locked. You just hadn't tried the handle. When you reimagine what's possible, you stop arguing for your limits and looking for openings. The same life, same job, same body can feel completely different when your mind stops saying, I can't, and starts saying, what if I could? A mindset shift doesn't mean you suddenly have everything figured out. It means you've opened a new channel of possibility. Once that switch flips, action becomes easier, and because it's aligned with a new identity, blah. Once that flip switch, action becomes easier because it's aligned with a new identity, not the old one that doubted. Your mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. Professional athletes have known this for years. They don't just train their bodies, they train their minds. Before they step onto the court or field, they rehearse the play in their head over and over again. They see themselves making the shot, running the play, landing a jump perfectly. What's wild is that when they do that, when they mentally practice, the same parts of the brain light up and fire as if they were physically doing it. The brain doesn't fully know the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. There was a study done at Cleveland Clinic where one group of people lifted weights and another group just imagined lifting weights. They never touched the dumbbell. After a few weeks, the people who only imagined it still gained 13% muscle strength just from the mental rehearsal alone. That's what mindset work really is. It's not pretending, it's mental training. When you start seeing your person, when you start seeing yourself as the person you want to become, thinking, moving, responding like them, you're literally rewiring your brain and body to believe that's who you really are. Your brain doesn't wait for proof. It builds proof out of belief. So when you picture your next level self, when you emotionally feel what it's like to be that version of you, you're already creating neural pathways that make that possible. When you start rehearsing the new version of yourself in your mind, seeing yourself as calm, confident, or free, you're doing the same thing that those athletes do. You're teaching your brain a new pattern. That is how identity change works. You don't wait to become the person to believe it. You start believing it, and then your brain begins to reorganize itself to match the belief. The more you mentally live as that new identity, the easier it becomes to act like it, speak like it, and make choices from it. Especially, eventually, it stops feeling like visualization and starts feeling like the truth. That's what reimagining what's possible really means. You're not faking it till you make it, you're practicing it until it's normal. Your mind is the rehearsal room for your next reality. Whatever you practice believing, you eventually perform